I've been through challenge and a lot of change, and I think that's where a lot of people are sitting right now. And sometimes when you're in the midst of the challenge, it's hard to see that you'll come out the other side. So hopefully I can offer some inspiration and hope to people around that, because my life looks very different a few years ago, and I was able to switch that around.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Would it be cool for you to share with us where you were a couple of years ago and the challenges that you've overcome?
Sure. So I've been in business for a long time, since I was 27, when I kind of like left corporate and set up a corporate consulting business. And my husband also has been an entrepreneur for quite a lot of years. And several years ago, he purchased a health food store, a natural therapies clinic, which was kind of his dream. We invested a lot of money into that. And I was running a separate corporate consulting business on the side of that. And, you know, it was a retail business, and the global financial crisis kind of hit here a few years after 2008, where we live, where there's a lot of retirees.
Yeah.
And that really had a massive impact on that business, like a very huge impact. So he was working 80 hours a week, not really getting paid, and basically had to close that business, and it forced him into a situation of bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, so that was very tough, like the financial pressure of that. But he also became very, very ill. He actually was like losing his mental function. He couldn't read a sentence. He would have like shakes and spasms and things like that. And he was really sick, and we didn't know what was wrong with him, you know, and we'd been very interested in the sort of health and wellness space. And we took him around to all of these doctors, and we couldn't get him diagnosed. And they were just like, oh, you need to go on antidepressants. I'm like, he's not depressed. There's something wrong with him. And so we eventually found a doctor who is kind of like House, if you've ever watched that show.
Love that show. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually has the bedside manner of House too. So maybe that
really do.
the brilliance and the bedside manner. So we took my husband Justin to see him, and he finally was able to diagnose him. And so we had to send blood work to America. It was all out of pocket. None of it was covered on Medicare or health insurance. And he was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease, as well as some other stealth infections. So we knew what was wrong. And then we were like, okay, how are we going to deal with this? Because, you know, he was like fully like crazy, like living with like a crazy person. Like he had like very impaired mental function and things like that. So then it was like the search for how to deal with it, because I wasn't really happy with the protocol that this doctor recommended. So we did a lot of I did a lot of research. I also have a science degree. That's what I did at university. So I did a lot of research and kind of was able to find someone here. I thought I'd have to send him overseas for treatment, but I was able to find someone here to help him, and also combine that with some health products that we came across. And we were able to get him like from basically completely dysfunctional, unable to work, to fully well with it in 5 months, which is pretty much unheard of with people for that condition. So we were in a very not good
two really big challenges in such a short time space.
Yeah. And yeah, it was a very difficult time in my life.
It must have been. What helped you overcome it? So I imagine there are a lot of people at the moment that are facing similar economic challenges, and the health challenges will be different, but there's certainly that fear of health challenges. What did you learn from that you can bring and share with us to help people understand how to be more resilient in those times of challenge?
So I think, you know, when you're really in it, it's kind of sometimes hard to see a way out of that when you're in a big challenge in your life. So I think something that's really important, and what I did even in the midst of that challenge, is I had a vision for how I wanted my life to look. So you got to get really clear. You know, I wanted my husband to be well. I wanted to create some kind of other business that didn't involve me. Like I was like working a lot, doing a ton of like client work, and working really hard to pay all the medical bills at this time as well, which were quite expensive. So I had that vision of what I wanted to create, and I had no idea how I was going to do that, like how I was going to bring that to reality. And I just had to sort of say to myself every day that it wasn't always going to be like this, and what things would change and transform. And sometimes when you're in the midst of a really crappy situation, that's pretty much all you can do, right? Because you don't have the power to like fix it straight away. I
think for a lot of people, they wouldn't. How did you create that? Like, not how did you create the vision, but how did you hold on to that vision? Because I think, like you say, for a lot of people, that's tough in the moment. What was it in you or around you that helped you hold on to that vision?
Well, I wrote it down. I think there's a real power in writing it down. If you don't write it down, it's much harder to hold on to. And I had that like up where I would look at it. And when I was driving, I would just like, I'd get a lot of anxiety about, what was going on in my life. And, it got like more bad things happen too. It's like bad things kind of follow each other sometimes in life. But I would say this will pass. And I would just be like, this will pass. And this is what I want to create. And it was like a little glimmer of what I wanted to create and how I wanted to live my life. And so I would just bring myself back to that, even when, crappy thing piled on top of crappy thing, piled on top of crappy thing. I'd be like, okay, yep, this is how it is right now, and accepting that, but then going, okay, this is what I want to create, and just always holding on to that and like saying to myself, this will pass, this will pass. And some days that was easier than others.
I think there's such a key in the acceptance. While ever we're fighting with it, I don't know if this was your experience, but while we're fighting with it, pushing it away, it seems to keep coming even more. Whereas that acceptance, it's like, this is how it is right now and it will pass. That seems like a really good strategy that worked for you.
Yeah, I think accepting it is really powerful. And the thing is, out of great challenge, and this is probably one of the hardest things to see when you're in the midst of it, but out of great challenges probably comes sometimes your greatest lessons and greatest blessings when you can reflect back on that several years later. What you learn from that and who you become as a person from that is actually what drives you to be able to create what you want. And that is like, and I'm not saying that people are having an easy time right now that are like in suffering by any means. But if you can realize that in some part of yourself, even if you're really struggling, that so often when you talk to people who have made a big transformation, it's in the struggle that they get the growth and the lesson to transform out the other side of that. And that's difficult to see at the time.
Yeah, it is. How has going through what you went through in the past times influenced your responses to change right now?
So I think it's made me be really clear on what I do and what I don't want, and not reacting so much, because it's like, things can be really bad and they can change as well. So it's, I think, holding that for other people who are really, really challenged right now. I have a lot of people that look to me for leadership and things like that. And it's like, it will pass, but you have to have some sort of vision for what you want your life to grow into. Because if you just, go into a victim mentality and you fall in a heap and it's like, this is all terrible, it's not, how are you going to transform out of that if you don't have a vision in what you want to transform into? And that could take a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. You don't know how long that's going to take, but you have to have that little inner glimmer inside yourself, deep inside yourself.
Yeah. So really focusing on like identifying what you don't want, really focusing on what you do want.
Yeah. And it's like, I worked with actually one of the people that really helped Justin in his healing recovery. We've become really good friends with her. She's a medical doctor, and she's like, write a list of so to get a piece of paper and divide it into 2 columns. And on one side, write what you see as success, right? Like what qualities you see as success. And on the other side, write what things bring you joy. Okay. So, and like, they can be really simple things: taking a walk on the beach, enjoying a meal with your family, going on a picnic. Often the things that bring us joy actually don't have significant cost associated with them. They are like fairly, things that we can do in our everyday lives, but we don't make time for them. So if you do something that brings you joy every single day, it's going to raise your frequency, and it's going to allow you to be more in touch with that glimmer. Even if it's only really tiny right now, it's going to allow that little glimmer, that little tiny flame, to grow bigger of what you want to create. And so it's like, just be really clear on what brings you joy and do it every day. Might be like hanging out with your kid, reading a story, like whatever it is. So I really practice that every day. I do those things that just make me happy.
Yeah, I think so often our success, like you say, it might take a month, it might take 6 months, it might take 12 months. Like the success things generally aren't overnight. But those things that bring us joy can be done in an instant. Like going and snuggling my daughter a lot more recently, because that's one of the things that brings joy. So the success might take a long time to create, or short time, depending on what it is we're aiming for. But those moments of joy generally are something that we can bring into every day easily. I think that's such a key point. What else, and how does that link to building the resilience? So having those moments of joy, how does that link? So I know how it does for me, but how does that link? Would you share just how you've seen that build the resilience for you?
Yeah, so I think if you're like practicing those things on a regular basis, doing things that are bringing you joy and not getting stuck in feeling really down, even if it's a really challenging time in your life. Like I've been through really challenging times, and you can get really stuck and trapped in that repetitive thought process of that. But if you focus on that, bringing that little bit of joy, it's like joy begets joy. And it's like, then you get a bit more, and that makes you resilient, because I still have days where I wake up and I don't feel good. I feel really crappy, or, but it's easier for me to get out of that now, because I have a practice and a strength from focusing on, things that make me happy and light my internal light.
Yeah, I really love that. I really love that you've brought awareness to the resilience. The joy doesn't stop crappy things happening. It just changes the response to it and changes the longevity of that. What else would you add for bringing in this joy? And like I said, the joy is really easy and instant. And the chat box is lighting up. They're loving it. It's great. In terms of the success side, what elements are brought to that in terms of resilience for you?
Well, I think it's keeping it in perspective. I think a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, and I know like a lot of the entrepreneurs on here aren't working in that way, but there's so much about the hustle, and that success is like hard work, and people like going without sleep and all of that, and it's not worth that, because the things that bring joy are the simple moments in your everyday life for pretty much everyone. Like when you boil it all back, it's like the things that you're able to do on a daily basis that make you happy are usually things that are quite simple from, what I've seen when people do this exercise. So it's really important to do that. Like that builds your resilience. And then when you're working and you're doing your entrepreneurial thing or running your business or in your job, you're actually more focused and more able to do things because you've already filled your own cup up. And I think that's where, I've been there definitely, working in corporate where it's all work, and working long hours and running a business and working really long hours. And then you become depleted and burnt out from that. So it's like having this practice of of doing things that are for you first and, for the people that are most important to you. It just builds a very strong resilience. So when, you do have to really bring it and, maybe do a couple of long days when you've got a lot of things on, you have that inner fortitude there to do it. Like you're not doing it from a place where you're really strung out.
Yeah. So using those moments of joy as leverage to create the longer term success. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And having that vision of, I think people sometimes they have a vision of they want success, they want to have a certain income level, they want to do these things, but it's really important to tie that with how you want to live your life. And I think that's a lot of people forget to do that when they're setting themselves up in business, or particularly in a corporate career. It's like, how do you want to get up in the morning? Do you want to be able to get up? Do you want to be able to go for a walk? What time do you want to start work? What time do you want to finish? Do you want to have weekends off, holidays? It's like thinking about all of those things when you create your vision, and actually work towards that and be very specific and very clear. And your life will be a much happier one.
Yeah. I really love there's something you just said that was just really awesome. Lots of that was really awesome. There was something that stood out. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's the bringing the blend. So the success on its own, that's what it was. It was how would you help the people that have the attitude or the mindset of, so at the moment it's like, when we go back to work, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Or when I have the $1 billion in the bank. Billion's probably a bit bigger than what most people are dreaming of, but I'm going for $1 billion. When I have the $1 billion in the bank account, I'll be happy. And it's these external things that they're focusing on. How would you help them redirect to something else so that they can have happiness, so they've got that blend of success and joy together?
Well, I think that's, where people get really trapped, don't they? It's like, when I have this, I'll be happy. When I, get a new house, when I get a new car, when I have this much money, when I get this promotion, when my business is doing this, I'll be happy. But the thing is, if you can't find that happiness, like right now, you're getting more stuff is not going to make you happy. And there's a lot of research on this beyond, so, a lot of people are in survival right now, right? And you do need a certain level of income to just meet your basic needs. But once you go over this meeting your basic needs, it doesn't actually make people more happy having more money. It's how they choose to live their life that actually makes people happy. So whenever I work with people, when I start working with them, I get them to look at why they want to create, I help people to create businesses. So why they want to create it. And we actually look at what things they don't want to stress about and how they want their life to look. And that's where we start from, not from how much money they want to make.
Yeah. I've been reading similar research papers recently, and there's a bell curve, and there's a point where happiness starts going down the more money you earn. There's a turning point. I think that's so key to bring awareness to, that it's not that external stuff that will bring happiness. It's the how we're living and the how we're choosing to be in the moment.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter, even if your situation is very dire right now and you're struggling financially, you can go outside for a walk in the sunshine. I mean, I live in Queensland, so it's here, but even if you live in a cold climate, you can put a coat on, you can go outside, you can be in the fresh air. We're lucky we can. In
the -2 degrees.
-2 degrees. It's very refreshing. I've done walking in the snow.
But yeah, there is definitely opportunities to do that.
Yeah, to just go out and enjoy something in your local area. Take a we're probably all blessed to live in a country where we have running water. We can take a warm bath. We can take a warm shower. There's a lot of things that we can do that can just have a little moment of bringing us incredible joy and happiness.
Yeah. What's the impact you've seen on people in terms of productivity and in terms of business, coming from this space of putting themselves on their to-do list first and making sure that they are, whether it's indulging in a walk or those warm baths, or just making sure that they are having those moments of joy, picnics with the family? How does that impact their productivity at work in terms of team management and bringing this to leadership? What would be the benefit of a leader giving this to? There's this voice in my head saying, if I'm a leader and I teach this to my team, they're not going to do anything. They're going to go and watch Netflix and have baths, and they're not going to get any work done. And that's me from 5 years ago saying that.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Well, I think it's when people are fulfilled, and it gives them an internal energy, which you know, on some levels is really hard to explain. Like they do it really well in Chinese medicine. They talk about qi and building your qi or your life force. When people are bringing, like, putting themselves first and having that joy in their life, their internal force is very strong. And that means, like, when they sit down, like, they can do an hour's work and probably get more done than someone else will get done in 5 hours, because they have that internal energy, which allows them to focus and just be able to, like, go boom, 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 get it all done, be super efficient, and they can be all finished. I mean, I know when I used to work in corporate back many years ago, I was in a management position. I was very young. I was like the youngest person in management, and they'd be like, we want you to do all of these things, and this is your, like, you know, what we want you to be responsible for. And I would look at them and I'm like, I'll, like, literally have that all done on Monday. Like, are you kidding me? And they're like, oh no, we expect this to take you a few weeks. And I'm like, okay. And I, like, got it all done on Monday, and I'm like, it's all done. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's really good. So it's you by doing that and looking after yourself, you're more productive anyway. So that's what leaders really need to recognize. And, you know, making people go out and take a lunch break for an hour and not have a work lunch, enjoy their lunch, go to a restaurant, sit in a park if you're working in an office environment, which I don't anymore, they're going to come back and be more productive in the afternoon rather than working through and eating something at their desk. It's kind of counterintuitive, but I've seen it work over and over. So it's making that time is super important. And there's research coming out about this now. Scandinavian countries are reducing their working week days and the hours that they work per day. It's like after 5 hours per day, people really aren't that productive.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I love that. So how do you see this as something we can tap into in the current situation? What do you think the lessons that business can take away from what they're being exposed to with people working from home and limiting office time very significantly at the moment? And I imagine we're not going to stay in this, but what can we learn from this?
Look, I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to learn from this, and for it, I think for office work environments to really transform, to have it so that people aren't in the office every day. They can ditch their commute for a couple of days a week and be at home. That probably is going to allow them to be really productive in that time without interruptions, to maybe drop their kids off to school, to pick their kids up and spend the afternoon with their children after school once or twice a week, rather than, you know, getting home at 6 o'clock after like a 9 to 5 if people are in a office environment. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to transform and to also make their employees have an level of happiness with their whole life that we haven't seen before. And that's going to make them bring a level of productivity to their work that we haven't seen before. If people can actually make this transformation as the world transitions back into people going into their regular jobs and things like that, if people can keep some more of the flexibility for people to spend more of the times doing the things they love and that are important to them, they're going to bring more to their work when they're there anyway.
Yeah. Beautiful. So the increase of productivity will come from this fulfillment across all of our lives. Yes, my cup is huge. I just noticed in the comments. I was scanning, and yes, my cup is massive. I enjoy my tea. That's definitely one of my self-indulgences. What popped up to me as you were sharing just then is what's the responsibility of the employer to the employee in areas that aren't necessarily work. So what popped up was, I imagine there's a lot of people, and I've seen it on my own Facebook feed, they're kind of being, I don't have quite the right language, but they're being sent home from work at the moment. So they're stuck at home with their spouses, and there's more relationship stuff surfacing.
Yeah.
What level of responsibility do you see that employers, or not at all, like if they're looking to increase across all areas of life, how do you see that playing out?
Well, I mean, I think like we all have a level of personal responsibility as well, you know, so obviously
absolutely.
your employer can't be responsible for your whole life and your family life and things like that. But what is happening right now, I see, is, you know, people have, like, they've had a massive change and a massive shake-up, right? A lot of people are stuck at home with their families, and that is bringing up things for that person to take responsibility and deal with, right? And it's like, for some people, they're really enjoying that extra time with their family, and it's creating extra bonding. And for some people, it's bringing stuff to the surface that was there anyway that you have to deal with. Like, you, like, that has to be dealt with. And very sadly, we're seeing a lot of increases in not great things out of this crisis, domestic violence and things like that. But it's like, at some level, there's like, has to be the personal responsibility. It's like, wow, this isn't working and it's time for this to end, or or this has to transform in some way. And it's, I think that this situation, because it's been such a pressure cooker, is really throwing that in people's faces, like what's working in their life and what really isn't. And it's like, you know, employers can, I guess, help people to where they can, if they need to have some time to move house, to do that, they can help in that way. But you have to have that, like, personal responsibility for your life too. And it comes back to having that vision for what you want. If you, like, have realized as part of this situation that your life really isn't working, or your job isn't really working for you, or your business isn't really working for you, then it's showing you something. And it's like, are you going to just keep doing that for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Or are you going to go, hang on, wow, this was a big wake-up call, and I need to listen, and I need to change. I need to make a move. You might not be able to change everything straight away because you might need the money to pay your bills, but it's like, what can I do to make a change? And that's what I did. I just was like, okay, I don't want to keep doing this corporate consulting forever. What can I do to make a change? And I, like, became aware of that. Something presented itself to me and I made a change.
Beautiful. So I think in those challenges, we are exposed more to potentially what's working and what's not working, and there will be elements of that being amplified. I'm certainly seeing that at the moment as well. It's just amplifying what was already there. Massive amplification. There's generally nothing new though. It's simply amplifying what was. And so how do we help leaders choose which pieces to address and which to ask their people to take personal responsibility for?
Yeah, I think it is tricky, isn't it? Right. Particularly like if you're a leader in a corporate environment, like who takes responsibility for what? Because if you've realized, like, you're sitting here as part of this and you're realizing that you don't even want to be in your career anymore, then that's probably not your boss's responsibility, right?
Yeah.
That's like your responsibility to make moves, to do something about that. And to show up and give your best to that job while you're still there. Yeah. Like that's personal responsibility. But leaders have a responsibility to making sure people are feeling, you know, heard and supported right now, because a lot of people are really scared right now. They have gone into fear. The media is perpetuating that fear in the way that the reporting is going on about the current situation. So employers have leaders have a responsibility to communicate. And this is something I really see, particularly in corporate environments, often done poorly, is they just don't communicate what's going on. Yeah. It's like, it needs to be communicated. If you're a leader and you've got a business where you've had to cut people's hours or things like that because of the current situation, you can't operate. Like, there are loads of businesses in that situation. Just be clear in the communication with your staff and your suppliers and all of that. You have to be like, this is what the situation is right now. And as things change and evolve, keep communicating. And I often see that's done really, really poorly in the corporate world. Unfortunately, it's like, let's just not talk about it. Let's I
think that communication is really key. And the communication of what is the leader's responsibility and is not the responsibility, and making sure that the person has access to whatever they need. So that's not like you've got personal problems right now. That's not my responsibility. I can help you take time off to deal with that. You need to.
And here's some resources that you can have for that. You know, there's a lot of like charity resources out that will help people with when they're going through things like that, giving people that information. So there's simple things that can be done, I think, by leaders, but I often see are not done. In my experience of working with like different organizations and different things. I still do a little bit of corporate consulting work occasionally as well. And they just don't communicate. Like they just like something is like not going well or bad or scary and they just don't tell anyone about it.
Yeah. Linda's popped a question. I've got one question for you on what you just said, and then I'm going to take Linda's question in the chat box. What do you think it is that holds people back from communicating?
I think they're scared of saying something wrong or scared of delivering bad news or scared of difference of opinions. And, you know, it's from fear. So they just don't do it. They don't say anything at all or communicate in a really bad way and just like blurt something out. And it's like having that decision that you're going to be clear in your communication. That doesn't mean you're always going to be giving everyone good news. Sometimes it's like bad news. You're going to be like, this is the bad news. Like, you know, but being really clear around that. This is what's happening right now.
Yeah. I really love the idea of being clear. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be anything other than clear, because you just, that's awesome. So Linda's popped in the chat box. What advice would you give to people who feel stuck because making a change is not always easy depending on the circumstances? And as we were discussing, like things are being amplified right now. So for the people that feel stuck in making changes, so it sounds like you were quite driven to make the changes. Like once you noticed them, that was there for you. What would you say to the people that aren't quite there yet? How do they get unstuck and move towards change in this space of?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I've noticed, because, you know, I work with a lot of people, that a lot of people right now are really stuck. And I work globally as well. And I would say people in Australia are more stuck than some other countries in the world, which is very interesting. So that's fascinating to see. There's a real kind of like frozenness here. So I think if you're stuck, you know, maybe it's probably not time if you've like still got a job and stuff to go and just quit all of that if you're feeling really stuck. But I have a process that I go through with people. I actually have my personal one up here. Yeah. And it's like, find the why that makes you cry. So I can make that available. Actually, I've got a free PDF which has all of this in it, and you look at the biggest areas of things that are going to make an impact in your life, and then you ask yourself a few simple questions. So what you don't want to stress about, I'm just looking at it exactly here, so I say the exact right things. You really want to be able to, for yourself, for your family, and for contribution. So I would start there, getting clear on what it is you don't want. Like you got some major stresses. What don't you want to stress about? And then what you want to create, and sit with that and put it, like read it every single day. Like read it every single day and go, that is what I don't want. This is what I do want. And maybe you're not sure how you're going to create that. So have it there and be open. There are opportunities out there for businesses. That's what I did. I took on a new business opportunity several years ago. There's opportunities out there. And if you are clear on what you do and don't want, and you're open, something will present itself. A change will come, and it will present itself in your life if you're observing carefully.
Yeah, beautiful. I think for a lot of people, that openness is often a hurdle that they need to overcome. And those people that are stuck, often it's the being open that holds them back. How would you help them connect to it being safe to be open?
Yeah, I think that's like the personal growth and personal development work, isn't it? We should be familiar with as a coach. So it's a constant practice to do that, you know, because as human beings, like that is probably the scariest thing, is to be open, to be vulnerable. And so I think that's something that you have to find a way to bring that practice into your life every single day. So when I work with people, I'll often, sometimes people, they don't have money to hire a coach or something when they're first getting started, or they're wanting to try something new, or they're in a financial crisis. So there's a lot of things that you can do. Like I would be reading inspiring books. You can go onto YouTube. There's great free content on there, like Marie Forleo TV, other inspirational leaders that you can watch to start to change the way that you're thinking. And then there's other things I'll often recommend people use that are free, like emotional freedom technique or tapping, things like that, to start to unlock those limiting things, the limiting beliefs. We all have them. I still have them.
Yeah.
Every successful person
all got them.
And just to create openness. Like if you start to like work on that self, like on yourself, what's going on up here, like all the crazy stories that we tell ourselves as humans, that will make you more open and more open and more open, and then more opportunities will come your way.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So for the person wondering how they make the most out of this challenge for themselves and are at the point of being openness, what are the steps that they could be taking towards that right now?
Well, the first step, it's kind of what I spoke to about. And I mean, I say this all the time as a leader. People are like, what should I do? And I'm like, the first step is you got to reflect, and you have to get clear on what you want your life to look like. Like you just, if you're not clear on what you want, you're not going to get it. Like it's that simple. A lot of years ago, I was, probably 20 years ago, I was like, I want to live at the beach. Like I was really clear. I want to live at the beach. Who can like live at the beach, like as a corporate professional, like in Queensland, like everyone lives in Brisbane, right? So I was like, no, that's what I want. I want to live on the beach. Right. I want to live at the beach. I moved to the beach like in 2004. Quite a long time ago now. And I just had this vision. I was going to find a way to create something that I could do where I could live at the beach. And now I actually live on an island now, just off the coast. So that's just an example. That might not be your thing to live at the beach, but you've got to get really clear on how it is that you want to live your life and what you want your life to look like on a overall and on a daily basis, because that's going to have a very different impact on what you're going to create in terms of what job you're going to do, what business you're going to create, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful.
So reflect. Everyone reflect. Take this as an opportunity for reflection.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And I think there's so many opportunities for us to reflect on the different areas of our lives and the different elements that we're looking at, which is phenomenal. There's some wonderful comments coming through.
I like that one. My friend calls this knowing the light on the hill that helps you make decisions and head in the right way. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah.
So important. And look, I've seen this because I work with a large team of people all around the world, and I'm like, you've got to write down your why. You've got to write down what you want, what you don't want. And then people come to me, and I've been telling this for a year, right? And they're like, it's not working. Our business isn't working. And I'm like, have you done your why? Oh, no, we haven't written it down yet. I'm like, haven't I been telling you for a year to like write that down and put it in your toilet and put it in your pantry and like copy it, put it all over your house so you read it every day? And they're like, yeah. And then they do it and they're like, oh my gosh, everything's changed. I'm like,
yeah. Beautiful. 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 Knowing that clear vision, the light on the hill is just great.
I love that expression, the light on the hill. That is beautiful.
Yeah. 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 Beautiful. Beautiful. Are there any questions that you guys have for Nicole? I'm loving the engagement in the chat box. Yeah. Nicole, is there anything else while we wait for those questions to come through? Anything else you want to add to today's discussion?
Look, I just think this is an incredible opportunity for people to really become aware of what it is that they want and to really reflect. Like my life is like so different, and like the turn that I took in my life is like would seem so wacky for someone like looking at the career that I had before. I had a hugely successful corporate career. I was the youngest person in middle management. I left that, set up corporate consulting, worked on billion-dollar projects. And then people are like, you like left that to like go into like the direct sales industry? Are like, you mad? And I'm like, no, I'm not mad, because I was clear on the life that I wanted. I was clear on that I wanted to live at the beach, that when I had children, that I wanted to be able to like pick them up from school, and I wanted to take school holidays off. And I knew all of these things. I was really clear on that vision of my life. And then I was open to an opportunity. I had no idea that this was going to be the opportunity. When it was first like presented to me, I was like, really? Like, are you kidding me? Like seriously, like I'm like a professional, but it can be a professional at this, but that's what I thought at the time. But then when I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can have the income that I want, and I can have the life that I want. And it like lined up, but I only knew it lined up because I knew what I wanted. If I didn't know what I wanted, I would have like never probably made this career switch, right? Because I would have been like, oh, that's not for me. Like, I don't like, that's not me. I'm like a corporate professional. But because I knew what I wanted to create, like, and how I wanted to live, I was able to like marry those things together when the opportunity, and because I was open, the opportunity came, and I was like, oh, actually, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And I didn't even have any idea that it would come in this format.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Create what you want, and then be open to, sometimes we get caught up in creating the how without knowing the vision, and we eliminate things as a result. So know the vision, but have the pathway be open. It's a beautiful question from Michelle in the chat box saying, the why that makes you cry, is that what you want to leave behind, or happy tears you must achieve this for?
So it can be, it's going to be, you're going to do it, and it's going to resonate with you like inside. You're going to feel it when it's right for you. And it's going to change as you grow and you evolve. So when I did my why in 2014, when I made my big career change, well, the start of it, I was still doing my other career. I did them both in parallel for a few years. I knew that that's what I wanted. And now it's different. It's evolved because I've actually achieved all of those things that I wrote down originally. I created the life that I wanted. I created the income that I wanted. I got rid of the stresses that I didn't want to have. Like, I did all of those things. So now it's expanded into something of much more service globally, and to be of service to others. But yeah, it's what is important for you. And if you're in a level where you're in massive pain, a lot of it is probably going to be of getting you out of pain and getting you out of financial suffering if you're like, really struggling in that area. But as you move out of that, it will change and it will evolve.
Yeah, I love that. So in the beginning, it could be that those tears of pain and hurt and what you want to break free of, and then as it evolves and continues, it'll become the tears of joy and happiness and what you're striving towards. That's beautiful. And I love that it's not something we do once, it's something we continue to evolve. I think that's phenomenal. Yeah. Beautiful. Some wonderful comments in the chat box.
Idiot, stuck in a corporate career. Yes, it is.
Yeah. No other questions seem to be coming through. I'm loving the engagement in the chat box. There you go. So what type of direct sales are you in, Nicole?
So I'm in health and wellness. So I'm with a health and wellness company. So based in America. So it's a global company. So came to Australia in 2014. So it's relatively new here.
Awesome. So this has been fun. I think there was something you mentioned earlier, a handout that we make available in the feedback.
Yeah. So I'll give the link to Yaja in the email follow-up that goes out of this, but I've actually got a free workbook, and it's 5 proven steps to get everything you want. So it's got my why process in there, and also some quarterly plan, because my background is project management. So I've kind of taken some of that and applied it to like just living your own life. And so processes that I do on a monthly basis to make sure what I spoke about, that all areas of your life are balanced. So I don't just look at, you going, okay, what is your income and your business goals? It's like, what's your relationship goals, your family, your fitness, your self-care and fun. So it's like making sure that you looking at all of those areas of your life and what you want to do, and then assessing them, how you went. And because then you can really easily work out if you're out of balance. If you're all work, then, you know, that's not going to make you to be a happy person.
Yeah, fabulous. So bringing that balance, like you said, bringing that fulfillment, that joy to all areas of life that we started with. This has been a fabulous conversation.